Hi everyone. Today we will discuss the concept of learning. Learning is a pretty familiar concept for all of us, but there are still many misconceptions about it. If you ask some people, they may say learning is only academic. It happens in school, and when pupils leave school, learning stops. Some people think that learning is purely about memorizing facts and information. Even though memorization is an important aspect of learning, true learning involves understanding concepts and being able to apply them in new situations. By the end of this video, you will have a clear understanding of what learning is and its different types. This is the intro video for the series of lectures on learning theories. If you are preparing for exams like NET, SET, etc., or are interested in learning more concepts in psychology, you can subscribe to this channel. I am Blessing Varghese, a junior research fellow at Mahatma Gandhi University, Kerala, and welcome to my channel, Mindscape. Widely accepted definition of learning is that it is the process of acquiring knowledge, skills, behaviors, or attitudes through experience, study, observation, or instruction. Learning is a process. It is not just about acquiring information or knowledge as a product, but rather as a continuous and ongoing process that requires active engagement, critical thinking, and reflection. Sometimes it involves making connections between new and existing knowledge. At times, it requires interaction with others, collaboration, and feedback. It can also be influenced by a variety of factors such as our individual experiences, cultural background, and personal motivations. So, learning is not something that can be finished or completed. Instead, it is a lifelong journey of exploration, discovery, and growth. Now, let's go back to the definition. Number 1. Learning is the process of acquiring knowledge. Suppose you are learning a new language. You have to acquire knowledge about its vocabulary, grammar, and syntax, which helps you gain the ability to communicate with the speakers of that language. Or when a student studies for an exam, they acquire knowledge about the subject matter, which includes concepts, facts, and theories that they will need to understand and remember for the test. So, learning involves acquiring knowledge. Number 2, learning is the process of acquiring skills. For example, learning to play a musical instrument, which involves skills such as finger dexterity, eye-hand coordination, etc. Or riding a bike, which involves developing skills such as balance, coordination, and the ability to steer and control speed. Or cooking, which involves developing skills such as chopping, baking, seasoning, etc. Number 3, learning is the process of acquiring attitude. Learning can certainly play a role in shaping and influencing attitude. For example, a person experiences the harmful effects of smoking may lead to develop a negative attitude towards smoking. On the other hand, a person who learns about the benefits of exercise through positive experiences may lead him to develop a positive attitude towards physical activity. And finally, learning can be considered as the process of acquiring behavior. Let's say you want to learn how to play guitar. Initially, you might not know anything about playing the instrument. Through the process of learning, you would acquire new behaviors such as how to hold the guitar, how to strum the strings, and how to play basic chords. As you practice playing, your behavior would become more refined and efficient. You might develop muscle memory, allowing you to play more complex chords and progressions without having to think about it consciously. In this way, learning can be seen as a process of acquiring new behaviors or modifying existing ones. Now, let's see one more definition. Learning is a relatively permanent change in behavior. It is a commonly accepted definition of learning. The concept of relatively permanent change in behavior emphasizes that learning is not a temporary or fleeting experience, but instead has lasting effects on an individual's thoughts, attitudes, and behavior. Let's say a person is afraid of dogs due to a negative experience in the past. They might exhibit behaviors such as avoiding dogs or feeling anxious and scared when they encounter them. However, if they undergo a process of learning such as exposure therapy, where they are gradually exposed to dogs in a controlled environment and taught coping mechanisms to manage their fear, they might develop a more positive attitude towards dogs and exhibit behaviors such as petting and interacting with them. This change in behavior is relatively permanent because it is not just a temporary reaction but rather a lasting change in their attitude and behavior towards dogs. And one more point, learning can be conscious or unconscious. Conscious learning occurs when an individual deliberately seeks out new knowledge or skills or actively engages in a learning activity. For example, taking a class to learn a new language, practicing a new musical instrument, or studying for an exam. Unconscious learning occurs when an individual acquires new knowledge or skills without being aware of them. It can happen through observation, experience, or exposure to new stimuli. Imagine a person who is exposed to a new language by watching foreign films or listening to music in that language. Over time, the person begins to recognize and understand some of the words and phrases used in that language without consciously studying the language or trying to memorize vocabulary. This is an example of how unconscious learning can occur through exposure to new stimuli. Let us review some of the important points. Number 1. Learning does not apply to temporary change in behavior. Number 2. The behavioral changes due to maturation process does not form part of learning. Imagine a baby who is learning to walk. As the baby grows and develops, they will naturally become stronger and more coordinated. And these changes in behavior are due to the maturation process rather than learning. The baby does not need to be taught how to walk, but instead, their physical development allows them to acquire the skills naturally. Number 3. Learning can result from direct as well as from indirect experience. Learning from direct experience occurs when an individual has personal experience with a particular situation or activity. For example, a child who touches fire learns not to touch fire again in the future. Learning from indirect experience occurs when an individual learns from observing the experiences of others rather than having direct experience themselves. And finally, learnings are not always positive in nature. We learn bad habits as well in the process. But the good news is that bad habits can also be unlearned or replaced with healthier habits through conscious effort and intentional behavioral change. This often requires a combination of self-awareness, goal setting, and strategies for managing triggers and temptations. With practice and perseverance, it is possible to break free from bad habits and develop healthier patterns of behavior. Now let us move to the second part of the video in which we will see different types of learning. There are many different ways to categorize types of learning, but one common way is to distinguish them between two broad categories. They are 1. Cognitive learning, 2. Associative and non-associative learning. Cognitive learning involves the acquisition of knowledge and understanding through mental processes such as perception, attention, memory, and reasoning. It can be further divided into two subtypes. 1. Observational learning, 2. Insight learning. Observational learning involves learning by watching and imitating the behavior of others, such as a child learning to tie their shoes by watching their parents do it. Insight learning involves the sudden realization or understanding of a problem or situation, often resulting in a behavior change or solution. For example, a student struggling with a complex mathematical problem. They may have been working on the problem for some time, trying various approaches and methods, but are still unable to solve it. Suddenly, they have a moment of insight and realize the solution to the problem which they had not previously considered. This insight allows them to solve the problem quickly and efficiently. This sudden realization or aha moment is an example of insight learning. Non-associative learning refers to changes in behavior that occur when an organism is repeatedly exposed to a single stimulus. What is a stimulus? A stimulus is anything that elicits a response from an organism. The plural form of stimulus is stimuli. Stimuli can be external or internal, and they can be physical or psychological in nature. For example, a dog salivates in the presence of food. In this example, the food is the stimulus and the physical response of salivating is the response. Non-associative learning involves a single stimulus-response relationship, and there are no new associations formed between different stimuli. There are two types of non-associative learning. They are habituation and sensitization. Habituation is a type of non-associative learning that occurs when an organism becomes less responsive to a repeated stimulus over time. For example, if you hear loud noise repeatedly, you may become less startled by it with each repetition. It is a process of becoming accustomed to a stimulus and decreasing responsiveness over time. Sensitization, on the other hand, is a type of non-associative learning that occurs when an organism becomes more responsive to a repeated stimulus over time. For example, if you experience pain repeatedly, you may become more sensitive to it with each repetition. It is the process of becoming more responsive to a stimulus over time. So, sensitization is the opposite of habituation. Associative learning, on the other hand, refers to the formation of new associations between different stimuli. It involves a process in which two or more stimuli become associated with each other, and the response to one stimulus is transferred to another stimulus. There are two types of associative learning. They are classical conditioning and operant conditioning. In summary, learning is a complex process that involves the acquisition of new knowledge, skills, and behaviors through experience, practice, and reflection. It is a fundamental aspect of human development and plays a crucial role in our ability to adapt in our environments. Learning can occur consciously or unconsciously and can result from direct or indirect experiences. It can be classified into various types, including associative and non-associative, observational, and cognitive learning. By understanding the principles and mechanisms of learning, we can better design effective learning experiences and improve our ability to learn and grow throughout our lives. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any suggestion, please put it in the comment box and don't forget to subscribe for more educational videos. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Take care.